Okay, here we go again. The thing is, in the military, senators, even congressmen, congresswomen can work deals sometimes. But if you put it in the public realm, public view, sometimes it's definitely more difficult. Well, because when somebody does a deal for a military member, we all agree that that should happen. But the rest of the world doesn't necessarily, the rest of the United States doesn't necessarily do that. So we don't want to get into, this back and forth. Why you do a deal for this and don't do a deal for that. Even in military situations might be different where they can't do deal. She's got a tough situation. The senator could easily have said, look, this is an average woman, unless they have something on her. I don't think they do. Her being charged and convicted of illegal entry is bizarre, I think, because I haven't heard this before on the other cases. So why her? So the senator could kind of say, you're being a little tough. They're being a little tough on her. We understand it is illegal entry, but you know, this is something that most people don't have. So they may be able to work something with that. Uh, I don't know, if there's any right to information. However, the thing is that the person that he's dinging that he was talking to at ICE, they have no leeway to let her go. He's acting like I can't believe they did this to us. But there's a final order of removal. There's a conviction for an officer, the SAC or whatever. They have a special agent in charge. I don't know what they have there, but that's the big chief at that office can't even change it. It's a big process. That's why I say get a lawyer because your best bet. But again, I don't know if they're allowed to say it. I may have, as a marshal, say call your congressman. Call you. If I knew it was a military guy, I'd probably say call your senator. I didn't tell you this, but call your senator. Because if you would have said I'm in the military, I said, look, you might be able to get some sort of waiver or something, but call your senator. Your senator can approach it. I would say don't call the media. Everybody calls the media, you're making a mess. If nobody knew that his wife existed and nobody knew that he existed, but a few people in the military, his buddies, they could have worked something, I think. So again, I do notice that she has a conviction for illegal entry, and I've never heard of it being spoken. I know I've heard of it. I thought it was illegal reentry at first, and again, if it's legal reentry, because I was looking for when she was here the first time, I thought it was illegal reentry because that's usually what they charge. They usually don't charge illegal entry. And the idea that anybody that there was a lot of people got work authorization, and again, I said we need when it started. This is like 2021. I said, we do need some people back in the United States from these other nations because we do have problems with inflation and not enough products. So we need these people here to help build. And we did, and we do. You're never going to get to zero immigrant. But again, what happened under the Biden administration really made a mess. So again, Cruz might be able to work something. That's who I would have went to probably. I don't want Ted Cruz's office, and I do believe they would try to help. And El Paso, I don't know the congressman down there. Again, you don't want a congressman that's going to be adversarial at first, because that's where a lot of these libtards make because they want to go to the media and make a big noise, and then the fight's on. Well, again, I don't know how many people. Maybe it's something new. Maybe they are just how many people are actually convicted of illegal entry. It's not most of these cases they didn't see anything about. Yeah, I was going to put a photo of Mullen waving or something like that to explain how it works. So, well, they put him in here because they want. I mean, he represents his people and represents the law, but they wanted a senator in there that understands the process. I think. I think they were having a little trouble with what they felt. Again, I'm not saying he's any better than anybody or anybody's better than anybody. Just saying, I think that's senator mindset. They do like taking over so many agencies with their person. Right. Well, they feel like they can better work if they have to. Not necessarily corruption. It's just easier generally to represent your constituent if somebody's friendly, senator friendly in the seat. So yeah, I wondered if yeah. So that came up. It was something weird with his daughter, and then the thing's called the Blue Wave, or no, not Blue Wave, Willie the Wave. He is a blue wave, I guess. So Democrats may be hunting for your family. That may be. I didn't think of it until now. No, they don't just go. Their operatives don't go after just the father. They have to create. They create as much mess as they can. That's why it's important for him to have money, so he can maneuver around their BS. That's why they restricted my money, so I couldn't maneuver around their BS. So let me see how many aliens that are illegally present are convicted of illegal entry percentage wise. Entry. They were clumping it with reentry. Most are felony. Yeah, so it would be felony illegal reentry. Now I don't know if she has an illegal reentry, then she's probably pretty bad off. Then we don't have all the information. But illegal entry is not a big charge. So, I mean, again, it happens. I mean, everybody has bad luck. If you put it in your life, we all have bad luck somewhere. So, uh, well, it could just be bad luck that she has that conviction. And again, I'm not saying it's wrong. It's maybe everyone should be charged. I don't. Again, I said it should be a felony. The only thing is, once you fix it, then you have less of it, and then we don't have the turmoil of people's lives. Again, they're not supposed to be here. So the idea that they're here means they stay here is never true, especially with what we got going on now. Like I said, the whole mechanic of what's going on in the United States, they're overworked because we have all these illegal aliens, we have all these narcotics strips, we have all these sex traffickers, we have all these radicalized people. Every radicalized person that shows that they'll again, if you sit at in your house and pound your fist, generally you're not going to go out. And again, this is how the psychology works. Generally, you're not going to go out and shoot the president. Right? But if you are, and again, that's why he probably didn't come up. It'd be interesting to see his history because he wasn't actively doing anything. To go from where he was to there, it's bizarre, which means he may have been radicalized by somebody. Again, there's witchcraft involved. If there's 10 people trying to get that guy to go after Trump or anybody in the cabinet, there's a witchcraft with that. Where there's a will, there's a way. That's 10 people's worth of will against his one person worth of will. So again, we need to look at that type of thing. But the point being, we have so many people that are radicalized. It takes time to go through their psychology and what we think they're going to do. Again, they bring them. What they were doing is we were bringing the worst offenders in, and then we didn't charge them. And they make light of that. Well, it just wasn't worth it. We felt, and then we didn't charge them. And that's the way the government works. And again, I'm not in the government. I used to be in the government, but I've helped the government all the way through. I never actually left the government in spirit per se. What am I doing next? Portia had little or no prior criminal. One of those prosecuted for illegal reentry. Well, criminal history doesn't matter on legal reentry. That is a crime in itself. So it keeps popping up. See, it keeps going to legal reentry, which made me I thought it was legal reentry, but it's saying it's illegal entry, which is very rare, or kind of rare. Actually, very rare considering the number of people we have here. Well, I'd still go to Ted Cruz's office and see if he could do something. I mean, I don't have the full case in front of me. I don't know what they know. I mean, she may have, she may be laundering money. I don't know. Like I said, I was in the military. My wife was Korean. Again, for us, it worked pretty simple. She came to the United States, had her green card, whatever it is, and we, she went through the process. So many years later, she became a citizen. It may have been at the, yeah, it was at the courthouse I worked at. So, and I didn't pull strings or anything like that. So, what was I going to get with that? Yeah, so we had a friend. My wife had a friend, should I say, and her husband was a correctional officer at Fort Riley, and her husband, they always had nicer stuff than us. It's one of the cues. He was a sergeant, and I was a sergeant. I think it was E5, but they had a lot of stuff. And he had like a firearm, like an AR, a personal AR. I mean, generally sergeants didn't have money for that back then. I forget what else they had. I think he had like a hot rod or something. And they took him down for cocaine distribution. So again, I don't know their history. For all I know, they could be doing that, and then in lieu of, could have been fringe people. Didn't want to arrest him, and then they just started deportation on her. Again, that could be a case. I don't know. That's why I can't tell you definitively. That's why you need to talk to your senator. Well, but just because somebody's in the military doesn't mean that they're not involved in criminal activity. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Some of these people, and some of the crimes weren't convicted, and you go back 5 years and you can find out, they spent 3 years dealing dope, but you can't charge it. So they just deport them. That's lawful. Again, some of the attorneys and people like that probably do know that. Just not going to say anything. So she does have a criminal charge, but I don't understand how they got there. Again, if she was, if they were doing something wrong, or she was doing something wrong, or she's with people that are doing something wrong, it could easily get her deported. Again, when people come here legally, they tend to understand these rules. And this is the point. And again, I believe in assimilation classes to help them understand the United States. Those Afghan people, they needed to be told you don't have sex with a 12-year-old. I mean, that's real. It's that bad. So I actually felt sorry for some of them in that the Biden administration did nothing to help them understand what the difference in the culture was. Again, they shouldn't have committed the crime, but at a certain stage of the game, why didn't you tell them not to commit? They don't know it. And even if they see it as a crime, it's a crime that what happens? They say don't do it again. You get 90 days or something. I said you need to tell them you're going to get you need to do anybody that comes to the United States as a foreign national, especially anybody who's going to put on a parole or anything like that. This is what should have happened. This is what I suggested anyway. Is you need to do a scared straight session. I mean, that's one of the problems. You're not doing scared straight. As far as an assimilation class that has like a day or two of scared straight. And because when you do that for everybody that comes here, then it's in their community. All they know is what they're seeing, and they see that some guy down the street selling dope, and he's living a better life than them. So maybe it's a good idea that he does it or she does it, or even just laundering the money. That causes inflation. All that drug money and all that money laundering. Again, when they're laundering money, they might pay a little bit more for a project because they're going to, somebody they want to do the project. It's like that guy, suspicious kindness. I got 4 bodies under my house, he says. Don't tell anybody. He gives them money. See, that's a cue. So again, they are paying people off people for, and that's why they want an alien community around them. They're less likely to go to a cop and say, "Hey, they're dealing dope over there." So again, I don't know her real history. That's why you have to get a senator involved, and his people can look at the case. And Mullen might tell. Mullen can tell, or if he assigns it, you assign it to someone else, beneath Mullen. But they can tell. They can tell the senator's office, look, this is just between you and us, but there's criminal activity, and that's why she's getting deported. Well, they're not going to tell you every thing because then you might figure out who the informants are. They're only going to tell you what they can tell you. Or even beyond that, what their system is and how they're figuring it out. I mean, they don't even tell me anything because I'm not cleared. I mean, I get things psychically, but that's about it. So again, that's the only way you're going to get anywhere in the military outside of what everybody else is looking at generally, unless the director or the a director or a secretary rules in. And then once they do that, when you make it public, everybody's going to see it. So if they do the deal, everybody else is going to want the deal. And then at a certain stage of the game, is it, do you have to give them the deal? Of course, somebody being in the military, it's easy to articulate an exception. So here's an example. Again, you're not U.S. citizens. You're not even here legally. If you go to an after-hours club where there's prostitution and narcotics, they're going to deport you if they can't charge you. I mean, sometimes your lawyer doesn't do what your lawyer is supposed to do. And then they'll blame it on the government. We've heard a lot of horror stories about immigration attorneys, but it's a pretty strong, media-supported, donor-based constituency. So what happens? We don't get the truth. We get FIs. So there, a lot of these attorneys are messing up cases. Like that one case, the attorney assumed he'd be released the next day. He didn't do his job. And then the guy ended up expiring based upon a long, drawn-out thing. I mean, it's something they do every day. So right. He didn't say anything. The lawyer, if he had a disabled client, should have been much more on it. I don't work there. I can't tell you how it all went down. But the officers that transported him probably knew him for 5 minutes or less. So as far as military spouse aliens go, first thing you need to do is call your senator. I'm for congressman or one. I find senator works better. I don't know. I've been treated well enough. You don't seem like they're overworked or anything. Because their constituency is bigger. Right? But I'm hearing from senators. Senators say if you're military and you have a problem and it's a legitimate problem, again, this is a legitimate problem, whether the senator can help or not, give your senator a call. That's what I received. Most senators will give you priority service. And service being the key word. Again, the idea that a senator, somebody flamed me saying the senator isn't right. That's right. Again, that's something that, the deep state fights stuff like that because they kill veterans and they don't want veterans or military people. And they don't want them calling their senator because the senator is good for Trump and the deep state at times. Again, when it comes to Secret Service, they did a great job. We're living in a crazy world. And that's one of the problems with also these military spouses that are aliens, not immigrants. Again, this is one of the issues. The sheer number of aliens. I guarantee if I met a woman that was an alien, I'd have had it all straightened out, or we would have went to the nation where she comes from for a short period of time and then re-entered and got it straightened out. Now, problem is Biden messed it up. He overwhelmed the system. The problem is when you depend on a lawyer without constantly making phone calls other places. you got to stay on top of it. It's the only way to get it done. Don't become an annoyance. Grind at lunch here. Let me see when they were. It's just the media is not going to help you. I'm just telling you that. And what's happening is they're seeing some of these cases in the media, and then the person gets released. It doesn't mean the media had anything to do with it. Like I said, I think she could have got released easier if a senator was involved quietly. Now, your senator can also, without telling you something that may be secret, but a senator's aide can tell you the chances of something going in another direction than where it is. With more accuracy than your lawyer. To a certain degree. Because if there's something confidential that the husband or the wife, service member and the wife can't know about, that they might know about, then there's no way to tell that. The lawyer's not going to know. But a senator, they can say, well, this, you can tell them that this is not going to change. The facts of the case will not allow it to change. And they might tell the senator that there was criminal conduct that wasn't charged. You can be deported for criminal conduct that's not charged and criminal conduct that they don't tell you about. Being put on parole, being given a work visa, doesn't mean you're a permanent resident. There's a lot of misinformation, and the lawyers are part of it. And quite frankly, a lot of people are wondering how these people are ending up with the American dream, and a citizen can't even get off a SNAP. And they're hardworking, good people. Again, there's a lot of questions. I provided some of those answers. Well, if you weren't who you were, it'd have been a lot easier, all of you. Yeah, look in the mirror. Anti-American, anti-anybody but Latino. I mean, come on. Turns out all the money you had is a lot of it's corrupt money. The immigrants are stealing, embezzling, frauding. Well, you did get your donations to the politicians, so they're still protecting you until you run out of money. So again, it's very basic. If you're in the military, first thing you do is you call your senator's office. Your senator may come back to you and say they can't do anything, or they might say, "Hey, we're working with ICE to come up with an alternative solution here." I mean, it's free. It's crazy how people run off. Media's going to dig in to ICE till they piss them off, and then you're not going to get any, treatment that's going to go the other direction off of that. It's not spiteful. In other words, the senator is actually going to have to. The senator has to stay in good graces with ICE to actually get the favor. Again, it's free for you, but not free for the senator's office. That's why I said do a deal. And again, in some cases, federal agencies do engage in things that are mistakes and errors, or not in the best interest of the United States. So if you contact them through a senator, and the senator could say, "Hey, look, my client, or my constituent said he just wanted me to handle it. He's not going to the media because he thinks we can handle that before that." Again, that type of thing. And they appreciate it. Again, this is the real world. The ICE doesn't have to be your N-word person. I don't have to be your N-word person. You're slowly learning that, all of you. Well, you all walked around like you owned the whole country, and the veterans were nobody. Like, the only time they care about a veteran is when they have an alien wife. It seems like, right? You want to be cared about by the media and the anti-ICE people? have a veteran, have an alien wife. Otherwise, you're just shit and trash to them. I moved around this country enough to realize what's going on. Maybe not at first, but that's the beauty of Hashem's actions and activity. I think Hashem being God. How you treat somebody that doesn't know. Well, stay peaceful. Praise God and all.